Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil mursalin sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Alhamdulillah, we are all here today, inshallah, to discuss on the religion part from which was earlier debated on by the speaker downstairs. So we shall start the session with the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha. We hope that when we have tested 1 2 hours it's going to be inshallah. Al-Fatiha. Okay, so just a short introduction on our biography on our presenter for today. His name is Mr. Nawab. Osman. He is an Associate Research Fellow at RSIS in the Contemporary Islam Program. He has conducted research and published on the topics of extremism, the role of ulama in contemporary Muslim societies, and also on Islamic political movements. He has been a social activist serving in the NUS Muslim Society, NUSMS, Young AMP and AMP for more than 1 decade. And he currently sits in the board of AMP.
We can try to make this session as informal as possible. So at any juncture, if you have questions, please feel free to stop me. We have, I think, about 2 hours or so to commence with the presentation and the discussion. Now, basically, the panel, our panel members, we have been discussing the issues with regards to religious aspect of the Muslim community in Singapore for the last 2 years or so. We have quite a broad-based, representation. We have people who are from the Asatiza fraternity. We have people like Ustaz Afid, Ustaz Kamal, and we also have people who are very involved in the Islamic education, scene. We have Brother Faisal and Brother Nasir in Islam, and we have also professionals, lawyers. Rajaratnam is with us. He still important, but very actively involved in the legal aspects of the Muslim community here. And we also have professionals, engineers and so on from various. I come from an academic background. I can't say that my knowledge is a very academic approach to the study of Islam in Singapore, and I do some work on the region as well, Malaysia and Indonesia. So we started off with a lot more proposals than what we have today, which is just 2 proposals. What we had in mind, we basically did using the perception survey and using various through various interactions with members of different groups. We met Bergas, we met some people from Mohd, we met individual Satizas and so on, to get a feel from them what they feel are the sort of issues that we should be tackling. So we started off, I think, with about 4 to 5 proposals, strategies we feel that can be adopted by the panel. But I think learning from the previous experience of the last convention, we decided to take a very practical approach to this. We decided to undertake these 2 strategies because we feel that these are strategies we can actually implement, perhaps not on our own, but in partnership with organizations like Bergas, Mohd, and other Simply Islam and so on. Which is why we targeted these 2 strategies and we decided. We also understand larger issues in the community that we still have problems, for example, with the perception about Muslims in Singapore, there are problems with the madrasah still and so on. And it is not that these issues are not important, in fact, very high in our agenda. It's just that we are using AMP, we are using other platforms, other avenues to engage with issues, rather than coming up with a specific program. Also, I think there are some that we have limitations in AMP. Our core business is not, Islamic education and so on. So what we are proposing here is something which is a lot more practical, which is a lot more something that we can adopt as as AMP, which is the Association of Muslim Professionals. Also, in a sense, we're gonna start having Islamic education and so on. There's a bit of a credibility issue as well. We do not claim to be part of the Asatiza, community. We have Asatizas on board with us, but really, we would rather do some of these things through other avenues or other vehicles that are already in place, right? So, any questions at this point? Okay, I will continue. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about this. I think you've heard Nizam earlier, what he has said about our strategy and recommendation. I'm going to elaborate the strategy and recommendation later. But what I'm going to do first is to get to just give a scan of sort of the issues that the community had to deal with in the last 10 years or so, the last decade. And improvements we have made, some still gaps that we still have to deal with. So for instance, I think one of the issues in the last two conventions we spoke about, issues with Islamic religious education. And I think this is one area where I think where the panel felt that we have made significant improvements. So we now have very structured Islamic educational program thanks to what Mohd has done with our live program. We also have new service providers such as Simply Islam that provides Islamic education in English, catering to certain segments of the community, the more English-speaking expatriate community and so on. So I think this is one area where we have made remarkable improvements in. Now, at the same time, AMP often in the last two conventions again, we spoke about the divide between Asatiza and professionals. And I think this divide is perhaps not as stark as it used to be. And this is mainly because a lot of our Asatizas have gone out of their way to reach out or to actually adopt more professional, to play more professional roles. So we have for example, Ustaz Afif, who is a graduate at the Al-Azhar University, who later on did a master's in RSIS, Rajaratnam School of International Studies, and who's actually now a scholar on Malaysian politics, Malaysian affairs. So this is an example. We also have an example of a professional within our panel who went on to do studies in religious education, Ustaz Kamal, who has a degree in science, zoology and botany and so on, and who subsequently went to Saudi to pursue his Islamic education. So I think this gap, we have a lot more of this, people with this kind of background, and I think this is where we're very proud of what our Asatizas have done. At the same time, the religious thinking of the community, this is again an issue that AMP brought up in the previous convention. I think there's been some shifts. For instance, I thought that this photo is quite interesting because it shows our Asatizas with former ex-minister Mohd. If you look at prior to 9/11, we do not have as much of this sort of interactions. We do not have, for example, during Ramadan, iftars being organized where we invite non-Muslims and so on. But right now, I think this is quite common. Literally, all the different mosques will invite some of our non-Muslim Singaporean friends. We are doing a lot more to also try to, present Islam in the way I think it should be presented. And although we still have some issues, in terms of probably some archaic thinking amongst various groups. But there's a lot of improvements, there are a lot more debates going on within the community on various Islamic issues. We are beginning to tackle contemporary issues in a more significant way, right? So, any question? Right, okay. Now, but at the same time, there are some issues we feel which is still unresolved. For example, the madrasa issue. I think this issue is something very close to all our hearts because the madrasas obviously represent the future of Islam in Singapore because we churn out our asatizas from the madrasas. There are issues, for instance, with regards to the fact that our madrasa students are not receiving funds from the government, despite the fact that, in fact, compulsory education was imposed to a large extent on the madrasas. And the madrasas, I think, have made a lot of improvements. Of course, there are issues with, with our madrasa. We don't deny that. But nevertheless, there is very little reason why madrasas should. I mean, the madrasas are simply categorized as non-governmental schools. In reality, though, the situation of the madrasa is a bit more dynamic in the sense that it's in the gray area, which is that a lot of aspects of what the madrasa is, in fact, in line with what MOE has suggested. But at the same time, it has, its core role of producing asatidz and so on. So what I think we probably should think about is the fact that the government should probably think about is the fact that madrasa should be categorized as a special entity, as a different entity, because at the end of it, they are doing a lot to try to accommodate to the compulsory education act and stuff like that. So this is something we have spoken about when we have had dialogues with various ministers. We have advocated this issue. So it's not part of our core strategy or core recommendation, but it is something we are doing something about, just to clear the air of this issue, right? And AFP, I think, during the height of the madrasa issue, worked very closely with us, and to try to put forward the view of the community. Now, the second issue is the perception of Islam in Singapore. I'm not here to criticize, I'm former MMP, former Lee Yu, but the point I'm trying to make is actually the larger issue that he brought up, that essentially the perception that Muslims are not integrating. All right, and this is a reality. This is something that we have to deal with. We have perhaps present a more dynamic front when dealing. AMP, or as many of you would already know, we issued a statement, to basically advocate the position of the Muslim community, and essentially, but at the same time, I think beyond the political dimension of this issue, we have to think about how do we change the perception. What Lee Kuan Yew is thinking is not just his thinking; he's reflecting the thinking perhaps of a lot of other people, a lot of other Singaporeans. So what is it that we are doing to try to engage? I think these are areas that we, as a community, we can think about ways to do more. There are also other organizations, MUIS, for example. I think MUIS is already doing quite a bit with the MUIS Academy and so on. So Hanan is here, probably can give some remarks later or comments about this. But these are sort of the issues that we feel are still unresolved within the community in the last 10 years. Now, the current issues. Now, here is where I'm going to bring in some of our findings through the perception survey, as well as our analysis based on some of the census reports and so on that have come out, right? So, for example, we found from the perception survey the increased importance of Islam. 93% of those surveyed. I mean, perhaps I'll give you guys a brief introduction about the survey. We polled about 350 people. These are very detailed questions on various aspects, economic, religion, and so on. They cut across, they are very much representative, they are representative of the economic status of the community, they are representative of the age group and so on, so it's well represented. Okay, although the sample size is small, but it is reflective of the shape of what our community looks like, the demography and so on. Now, 93% said that they support, stronger adherence to Islamic laws. Although from our analysis, we suspect that perhaps they do not know what they mean by this, because when you look at other questions, it doesn't seem to tally, all right, with this. Nevertheless, the good news is that there's a sense of a sort of an Islamic identity as far as Muslims in Singapore is concerned. They have a certain attachment to Islam. All right. Now, at the same time, what we found interesting as well is the rising expectations of Muslim institutions, in particular, the MUIS and the Asatiza community. Basically, about 80%, although 80% of the Malay Muslims, so okay, how the survey works is this. We categorize people into three groups: the Malay Muslim community, key influencers, and opinion leaders. All right, opinion leaders are politicians and so on. Key influencers are people, leadership of Malay Muslim organization, people who are in leadership positions essentially, and Malay Muslim, the larger Malay Muslim community are, everyone else. Now, 80% said that essentially they think the ulama, the Malay Muslim community, they think they're doing well. Only for 50% among the key influencers feel that the ulama are doing enough. And I think this is something for us to reflect on. Again, about 80% of the larger Muslim community feel MUIS is doing a good job. Only 50% of the key influencers feel the same. So there is, I guess, some issues here that we need to think about. Now, so we're not sure whether this is something we can discuss, of course. I mean, are these expectations a bit unrealistic? They are expecting very unrealistic things from what MUIS or the Asatiza do, something we can discuss. Now, one of the major issues I think that has come out very strongly in this is the issue of youth. Youth who are descended from Islam. This is exactly the kind of point that I was trying to make. That now, this was not part of the survey, but and again, no, we do not have hard, numbers with regards to the number of youths who are receiving, any form of formal Islamic education. But what we did was we looked at the census. Okay, we looked at the number of youths we had between the age of 10 to 24, and we actually, some of our panel members, what we did was we looked at the numbers. When we met MUIS, we estimated based on the numbers of all the different Islamic service providers, the private ones as well as the MUIS. MUIS is the largest, Pergas and so on. And based on our estimates, it's between 65 to 70%. And I can tell you that these numbers are very conservative because we included about 30 over 1,000 youths who are being engaged through the MUIS youth engagement. Is that right? I think that's the term, right? Youth engagement unit. Right? Is that what it is? Yeah. So there are about 30,000 youths who, from our interaction with them, who are being engaged. Bear in mind that this could also, out of these 30,000, there's a good number who are coming from the Allied program. So there could be a double count there. So some of our friends, who are involved in Islamic education, they are suggesting that perhaps the numbers could be more. All right. So this, I think, should be of concern as far as we're concerned. Now, the other thing, when we look back at the survey that we have done in regards to youth, because we saw these numbers initially when we were surveying. So when we did our survey, the focus was very much on youth. So this is where about only 50% of the Malay Muslim community feel that the Asatizas are connecting with the youth. All right. So the ways they feel that the Asatizas can do more includes, collaboration with Muslim organizations. They wanted engagement through online, through new media. They wanted engagement through having more classes. More than wanted actually asked for more classes to be organized in the English medium. So these are some of the issues. And here again, EMP is not here to criticize the Asatiza community. I think more than anything else, at least I personally feel there's a lot more to be criticized among the professionals. Right? We have not reached out as much as the Asatizas are. But nevertheless, I think these are issues we have to bear in mind when we are thinking about this. And I think what we are doing here is to take a proactive role in terms of doing something, rather than just talking, there's a problem, and then throw everything at the Asatiza and say, oh, this is something for you to resolve. What we're doing is we are going to our Asatizas, and we are basically telling them that this is the situation, this is our proposal, what do you think? And I think we have met some of the senior asatizah, and I think they are generally supportive of what we are doing. They have other suggestions. For example, they feel that we should try to get the government to reintroduce Islamic religious knowledge, IRK, because that had a basis. But again, the difficulty with this is that this is not something we can do about. We can propose this to the government, and when we are engaging them, we will, inshallah. But it's not something we can do anything about as EMP. EMP doesn't make that decision on this sort of thing. All right? Now, so this is, and so we have a large pool here of these youths. I think there are some things. So our proposal, when we look at the research, we are looking at ways where perhaps out of these 60 to 65 to 70%, there are some of them who would probably come if you have more English language classes. Some of them who might come if you you can engage them through the media and so on. But you have this is basically a scene from Anak Metropolitan. Some of you guys will know this is a very popular Malay drama series for our non-Malay friends. Honestly, I personally feel it's a whole lot of rubbish. They're showing it on TV, but nevertheless, they are showing the reality of subculture, within the community. I'm not sure whether it's good to show it on TV, because those who are probably not adopting that might start thinking about it, might think it's cool to do it. But nevertheless, you have things like this. For example, Pa, they actually have within the gangster culture, they actually have someone they call a Papa and Mama, like someone who's sort of like the leaders of the group. They turn to and so on. How do we outreach? Sorry. The question is, how do we outreach these guys? I think we are not. I mean, from our analysis, from what we are seeing, we're not doing enough, I think, to engage this sort, this youth. And I think there are issues here that we have to think about. I'm gonna go through some of these issues. But one of the things that we found from this census 2005 and 2010, which could be alarming, we do not know why this is the case, but 0.4% of Malays in 2005, identified themselves as being non-Muslim. All right. In 2010, the figures were 1.3%. Okay, 1.3%. What it means is there's a 0.9% within a span of 5 years who are saying that they're not Muslim. All right. I'm not suggesting here that all of these cases are apostasy cases, but this is a good 5,000 over people, 5,800 or so. Who are these people? What is it? Why is it that they are saying they are not Muslim? Are they basically converting to other religions? Are they just becoming agnostic? We do not know. Actually, from what I understand, I think the government, at least our Malay leadership, they have the numbers, but of course, it's sensitive information. They're not willing to share it with us. But based on our deduction, looking at these figures, it's something to worry about. All right. So we cannot just say that, why should we care about the kids? Because they are the ones who are more likely to make that switch, and this is something we have to worry about. Now, the strategy fostering an engaged and learners Muslim community. This is courtesy. The phrasing is courtesy of our good friend, my good friend Dr. Rajaratnam. Now, the idea essentially is, when we talk about engage, meaning that the Muslim community leadership is engaged with the Muslim community. In terms of the kind of classes they are offering, for example, they are engaged. They know what is, how the ground is like. At the same time, learn it. Because this is a major problem. I mean, we cannot have a community that do not know their basic Islam, essentially. So this is what we are doing. In fact, we want to have a community that knows more than just basic Islam. Somebody who could interact and engage at an intellectual level when it comes to their religion and so on. So basically, these are the components of what we want the Muslim community to develop the basic Islamic knowledge at the very least. Islamic leadership that is engaged, and a community that is able to identify community leadership together with the community, identify future trends for Islam. And I think this is something that we need to seriously think about. And I thought this, this thing about the Quran, of course, many of you know about this new technology they have now to read the Quran. I thought it's interesting because the Quran represents knowledge and the pen represents an engagement. So I thought, it's quite, interesting to just have this. Now, our first recommendation, development of a research consortium on Islam in Singapore. What we mean by this is essentially, now, I think we are looking essentially at ways we can identify the gaps between service providers and the expectation of the Muslim community. There is a gap. Based on our survey and the census, mainly the survey, there's a gap. Our service providers are not necessarily providing the kind of services that are that the Muslim community basically looking for. All right. At the same time, being cognizant of international developments in the Muslim world, I think this is very important because sometimes we come across as being very ignorant when it comes to development. We take a very emotional approach to some of these issues, and I think it's important that we know what's going on here. And at the same time, identify religious trends among local Muslims and the larger Muslim world. So, for example, one example I like to cite would be, the Arab Spring. Is that going to have an impact on the thinking of the Muslim community? And stuff like that. And these are areas that we haven't actually explored in a concrete way. Now, essentially what we have in mind with this is annual perception surveys. This was something Nizam highlighted. I think this is something we are looking at to do in a very serious way. To have a perception survey, not just on religion, on the larger Muslim community, to get a sense of what is it that what is it that they are looking for, and so on. And I think some of this information we can feed back to Pergas, and other partners. And perhaps they can do something based on this information when they are thinking about their programs, their projects, and so on. So these are the internal sort of things that we can do as a community to try to improve the current situation. At the same time, annual Muslim review. This is basically a review of developments within the community. It could be a sort of small occasional paper or publication. I'm an academic, so I tend to want things to be documented. And this is actually very important. Why? Because I've done some field work in some weird places, and several years back I was in Pakistan to do some work on some Islamist movements and so on. And I met a very interesting alim, Maulana Shah Ahmad Durrani, who was actually leader of a Sufi political party. It was quite interesting. And he actually told me that he was a student in Madrasa Al-Junaid in Singapore. So this is why I think we need to document things. We don't want our history to be lost. Because there are so many things, the importance of Islam in Singapore, being a center historically and so on. These are things that we want to know, all right? And that's why having a sort of a review, 20 years down, 30 years down, we can look back and say, okay, this was what happened. These are things and so on that happened, right? Research projects on Muslim affairs in Singapore. This is basically a continuation of what we are doing in Rima. Now, recommendation 2, which is actually the more important recommendation. Now here I brought the figures up, the alarming figures about why we are proposing this key recommendation. Now social problems, teenage pregnancy, we are the highest. This kind of argument is very difficult to make. By the end of it, we are all Muslims, and I think I believe at least, and I think most of you do, that our moral compass, is grounded, based on Islam, grounded on Islam, right? And I think if you look at these kind of numbers, I think it is a reflection. I'm not suggesting that someone who knows about Islam will not, get pregnant or whatever. These are difficult arguments to make. But nevertheless, at least we should provide them with that basic foundation, all right? So that, we don't have problems like this. A lot of the social problems within the community, I feel we can look at the impact of Islam on some of these issues, right? Future challenges, I talked about apostasy already. That there is a trend right now, possible trend. The second is deviant teachings. I mean, we do not have figures on this, and there was no way we could have found out. But I think one of the things we thought about is these projects, for example, research projects, the review. This would be a way for us to get a sensing of what is happening in the ground, whether there are deviant teaching or not. Perhaps Mohd is already doing that. There's, they have a sense of this, but we do not have the information on this. Now, extremist ideologies, I work on this area, and I can tell you that essentially in the literature, what they have shown time and time again is people who turn to extremism are not, religious students. They are not your madrasa kids. They are people who are from secular background, who do not have any grounding on religion. It's as simple as that. So by the virtue of this alone, I think we can make a very strong case about the need for us to have the Islamic knowledge, and perhaps to make a case to even to the government about this, because this is, the literature is very strong on this. We can see from various countries, perhaps the exception of Pakistan, but that's a completely different situation. But everywhere else in Western societies, this has come out time and time again. All right, so this is something to think about. Now, what do we mean by this? All right, essentially, we are aware that ANP cannot be embarking on a project like this on our own. It has to be a coordinated effort with partners such as Pergas, Mohd, Breakout, Rajaratnam perhaps, and so on. All right. At the same time, what we have in mind is essentially innovative programs to outreach to institutes. I think perhaps sports, we are already starting to do that. But things like arts, for example, this is something we haven't explored. And if you look at the examples of Muslim minority communities, I did my PhD in Australia, so I stayed there for a couple of years. They're very dynamic in terms of how they're engaging youth. They have, for example, when I was there, an art competition, a graffiti art competition, basically organized by Muslim organizations, basically to outreach. Another example I can cite is the Inner Muslim Action Network in Chicago. They have, I'm not sure how comfortable we are yet, at this level, but they have a sort of a festival, a culture festival, Islamic cultural festival, where they have, music programs, film festivals, and so on, all within, of course, the confines of what is allowed in Islam. But the idea is to outreach. They have, for example, rapping, but rapping good things, using hip hop music. I mean, there's a literature on this, the Muslim hip hop culture. I'm not suggesting this for us, because perhaps we are not at that level where we need to do these things. But things like this, I think, will be something, one of the things we notice is the skateboarding culture. They go to East Coast, and time and again, if you go there, you realize all the Malay kids are there doing all these things. How do we engage these guys? What is it that we can do? We know they are attracted to that. You call them to the mosque, they're never going to turn out. An organization with the name Islam there or Muslim there, they're not going to come for anything. But how do we outreach to these kids? Can we organize a skateboarding, what is it called? The one that has the sport, you know what I'm talking about. You don't know.
It's connected.
Yeah. You are. But, that sort of thing. This photo I have here, I think is interesting. Right? This is basically in Chicago. They had graffiti art, as you can see. And this is actually a hadith from it's a hadith that the heaven is in the feet of your mother. Alright? So you see how, graffiti art always seemed to be negative. Like, it seemed to be a subculture and so on. But at the same time, how we can be innovative essentially to try to outreach to some of these kids. And we have to bear in mind, we have to do whatever we can to try. Because if not, you have the potential of people living in Islam going to do some things that would be detrimental to the Islamic religion. So we need to open our minds to this and see how we can work together towards, inshallah, a better future for Muslims and Islam in Singapore. So I guess I end my presentation here. Please, I don't like, we should have put Q&A and, discussion, because these strategies are there for us to discuss. We are very big on this being a bottoms-up, approach. And if you guys have any other strategies, you think we have missed out on some very important points, we are, very happy to. So take it like, we are discussing this amongst brothers and how we can better. And Malcolm, is it?
Yes.
We'll be very happy to hear your view as well, and I'm very glad that we have you here, because we also would like to hear, the perspective from, a fellow Singaporean who's not a Muslim. So I think that would be very interesting. Okay, so I'm going to sit down because it's a bit long, 1 hour to. So please, at any point.
Thank you very much, Brother Nawab. So now, hopefully we can hear some robust discussions going on. Please make it hope to make it as informal as possible. Yes, before anyone share their opinions or their ideas, we hope that we can start by introducing themselves, perhaps, so that
introduction.
Yeah, if they're representing any particular institutions or establishments. Thank you very much. So who'd like to start then?
Hey, my name is Rahman. Going back to your recommendation to, I think...
Do you have any...
No, personally. My idea is that we should go back to the basics, and that is to bring the Islamic views more back to schools. I think it's a very noble deed to present this to the government, and since we are advocates, we should direct it that this should be the main thing for the religion panel, so that we will solve a lot of the social problems that we are encountering right now. So this is my suggestion for the committee to put that as a recommendation.
Reintroduction of IRK.
Yes.
Okay. There is one? Sorry.
Mohd here, personal capacity. Assalamualaikum. I heard your remarks about the fact that our Islamic education is catered generally, public in general. Same breath, you also said that there is this growing trend, there's a 0.9% increase over the last 5 or odd years. People who have decided to withdraw from the 25%. In my, I have no data to back up what I'm going to say, but some of my own tentative thoughts on the subject is that, yeah, for the general youth at large, we're catering for having a basic Islamic education is very much ibadah. May be very relevant and very good for them. Basically, they want to know what it takes to be a good Muslim. But as you move to a slightly different echelon of youth, who perhaps due to their secular education, high learning, it seems to me that many of them, some of them feel that the kind of Islamic education we have is far too narrow. And as such, they feel that they want something which actually compares Islam with secular thought. And the way that we have structured, and our teachers themselves are more used to teaching in terms of ibadah, of areas of tawheed, of aqidah, of fiqh, of maybe even Quran, something like hadith. That's a structure that could well work with general young youth population. But for a youth population that is more accustomed to talking about, for example, is what's the different Islamic thought that exists, and what is the developmental, how the different areas of fiqh different, and how do you sort of have a contemporary approach to fiqh, and other areas which even you come from this political Islam thing, this political thought and differences of political thought. This kind of teaching that might well cater for more perhaps better educated, more liberal arts educated Muslim youth may need to be explored. And right now, the one key problem, it seems to me, is we've identified that, and I've seen over the years that a number of people whom I've talked to who have Muslims who are educated that they want to withdraw from Islam tend to be the more highly educated. Rarely I have come across having to sit face to face and to talk to somebody who is not educated, at least have a tertiary education, and very inquisitive and very open and challenging some of the norms of Islam. So, but one problem we found was that our teachers are not ready for that, because they are schooled in a system that teaches them on Usuluddin, on Sharia, on the Quran, and to cater for these ideas of thought or development seems not to be there. So now I'm addressing a very small section of it, which you are expressing in the talk. Maybe some thought need to be given as to whether there could be some variation in actually teaching system for a particular category of younger youth should be maybe exposed to ideas of thought, Islamic thought.
Brother, can I say something before? Actually, Brother Rizwan, what you had in mind is actually what our proposal on research. This is something we thought about. We are also aware of this dynamic. So what we were planning actually through that research, because like I said, I mean, AMP can't be having Islamic religious classes. These are things we can feed back to other organizations and based on the research. I think the strength that AMP has within the Muslim community is that research dimension, because we are made up of professionals. There are many of us here who are academics. We are able probably to do that. But what we want to do is to feed back some. Sorry, brother, can you hear me? The one right at the back. You know, to feed back to the Islamic service providers to see how we can get engagement. I think for a start, simply I have to comment simply Islam. I mean, I attended some of their programs. And I think they are highly intellectual, highly engaging with the youth. So is there a way, are we open, for example, to maybe assisting Simply Islam to expanding this, or are other organizations willing to perhaps learn from the best practices? This is where the research dimension comes in. So we can do that, but at the end of it, when it comes to the implementation, we are limited. We do not have asatizas, enough asatizas at least on board for us to be able to provide those sort of services to the community. So we did think about it, and I think those are very valid points. But the second, I think, is the dynamics of this apostasy as well is, I think there is a case to be made that those who are disengaged are not, could be coming from those who are not necessarily well educated. Because we have anecdotally met some of them, you know, who I think really they have no connection at all, don't identify with Islam, even at the identity level. So I think there are two groups that we're looking at, and I think both segments are perhaps important. But I concur with your point about the need to address, you know, that the intellectual dimension of Islam. And I see that in the West, they are quite developed in this area. When I was in Australia, I mean, some of the talks that I went to, they're very engaging. They really cater to that level. The Muslims, this is perhaps a way, one avenue we can use in the Muslim student associations and the universities. I think they have a role to play in terms of trying to perhaps present that intellectual Islam or engaging it at that level in partnership with perhaps some of our asatizas and so on. So, and I don't know about Muiz Academy, but I don't know enough about it. But I think Muiz Academy has also initiated some talks and programs where they're addressing some of these issues at that level. But perhaps not enough, or it's not like organized in a sort of a class form, if you like, a religious class or course. So, sorry for that. Yeah, we can get back to you. You had something, right? Yeah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hijang Jamaluddin.
Sorry, brother?
Hijang Jamaluddin. I think it is important before we discuss further about this religion topic. I think this religion is much important. It should be the core pillar of all the other pillars. The core to support economic and others. We must have spiritual values, which is important. We mentioned about we have a good engineer, quality engineer, but without spiritual, I think, no way. Okay, the first thing I just maybe wanted to get participants also to explore and that is us to think actually what kind of future Muslim community in Singapore that we want. That's the most important. And by realizing at the moment what kind of Muslim Singapore or Malay Muslim Singapore that we have in Singapore. Because what we can see, we observe, probably maybe those ustaz and followers, one group, those modernized Muslim, another group. We can see also, I don't know, maybe either in terms of organization, Islam organization, social culture organizations, are they interacting? These are the things maybe we have to explore and discuss. And furthermore, another thing, I think if we work in dichotomy, we will be losing the products. So I wanted to explore. First thing, try to realize, try to tell us what kind of Muslim that we have in Singapore. Then what kind of future Muslim they want to create in Singapore. Because we understand Muslim can be regarded with traditional Muslim, and then in between, 50 traditional, 50. Another one is modernized Muslim. So are they go to the right? Are they, even though they are working separately, going to the right direction, or they are in fact doing on themselves, which is in the losing right. So that is my concern. And another thing is about parents. If we can have a very good quality Muslim, inshallah we can create quality parents. Quality parent with a Muslim value can create quality children. And this also I wanted to, because what I heard from my friend who handle Muslim religious course in Singapore, now khusus rumah tangga now is under ministry, under what? MY. What I heard the contents, we Muslim handlers cannot put Islamic content inside there. We cannot mention about munakahat, cannot. You must follow direct from whatever already prepared by Israelis. So in that case,
you're from Israel, right? No, perhaps you might.
I don't know.
Is this something you can address?
Sorry, I comment on that.
Okay.
Yeah, because
We do
that
not
is
know.
not part of
so we have so many providers for this kind of kusuma tangga, but I heard different kind of contents. So we're concerned about the kind of pattern that we are going to have to produce. So please discuss it.
Okay, just your point on parents, I think this is a very important point. We are having the proposal of the social panel, if you remember earlier. One of the proposals they had is to set up a parent school. What we have in mind, obviously, is that this parent school will be helping, helping parents to become, to become better parents. How to teach them parenting skills and so on, which is grounded, based on Islam, grounded on Islam. So that is one step I think we are doing, and I think we completely agree with you on the need for parent school. Because unlike in the past, where I think it's perhaps, I don't know whether it's easier or not. I mean, some of the parents here might disagree with me, but I think the dynamics now in Singapore is quite different from in the past. So I think parenting has become a bigger challenge in some ways. Kids are more exposed to all kinds of influences on television, on the internet, and so on. So I think perhaps the parent school would be able to address some of these concerns. About the issue of, I have to reiterate that within even the panel, not all of us, in fact, most of us are not members of AMP, the ones who are sitting together. So we are very aware. I mean, we are not here, and I qualified this from the start. We're not here to criticize MUIS or criticize Pergas. What we want is to work with everyone. In the research dimension of what we're doing, is to assist, not to try to subsume their role. That's not the intent at all. So I think we have in mind, I think, as well, the idea that the asatizas and the professionals will need to work closely, better, more closely. This happened, I think, during when we are under attack, if you like, during madrasah issue and so on. We were very close. But I think we are trying to revive that and formalize that within, you are going to hear about it, inshallah, over the next few months. We have had some discussions with Pergas about this. So inshallah, we'll see the results of that. Sorry? Brother?
Assalamualaikum, saudara dia. Itu touch on about one is the concept of berjamaah, which is missing in Singapore. Berjamaah, congregation. In my experience in my home, there was a gap in my block. I only got to know after a few days. Okay, this missing. Seems to me we are no more together. The Kotong Royal Spirit is gone. The Islamic concept, fundamental in Islam, prayer is good to berjamaah in prayer. But I don't see any effort being done to get the Muslims back together. We are trying to get to the non-Muslim, educate them about Islam, but we fail to educate ourselves. But we have to be together all the time in anything we do. We must know our neighbor well, But how many of us know our neighbor well? I'm not sure. Yeah? How many of us even care about if our neighbor's son is doing something out there, smoking, even tell them, hey, don't smoke, it's not nice, no? I don't think we do that anymore. So this is missing. There's no center trying to create that berjamaah concept together. So it's something that I want you, somebody got to look at it. We have to go back to fundamental Islam that we have to come together. Even in zakat, we together, salat together, But nobody push for that principle, berjamaah. Very critical. The way I see. Even today, we have Muslim bodies not coming together. They have their own projects here and there. Okay? The other thing I see that the Muslim can never change. Can never change if we depend on the asatizah. What I proposed that many years ago I was talking about, we should asatizah as a professional. Not trying to professionalize asatizah. Because what happened today is a good example. You can see that this convention is not organized by asatizah, it's done by professionals. And you also recognize that there are some Muslim professionals actually move into Sharia to learn about Sharia. Right? So the change should come from people like us, professionals. We should be given more knowledge on Islamic way of life. Islam is not just about doing what's haram, what's halal, but the way of life is not reflected to every professional in Singapore, where the youth can see, hey, this is Islamic way of life. This is Islam. It is not that a man with a beard, it's symbol of Islam. See? I had that experience. For me, by training of engineering, I moved into Islamic law, written many books, okay, and yet I'm not allowed to talk in the mosque. Okay, because I have a perspective, my way of life, look at things. But what I have acquired, how I acquire my knowledge is not by going to madrasah classes. In fact, I have never attended madrasah program. How I acquired knowledge actually through the program conducted by Rajaratnam last time. All the program I conducted, I attended most of the talks. Then I see Islam in a different perspective. That's how I get myself Islamized in that way, not through the madrasah program, So I see there's a serious need for AMP to look into, as a professional body, how you can asatizize the professionals. These are the ones that can bring impact to change the community. This is my experience. Right? So this is what I see. So I'm one of those people who don't attend program, but yet I can do a lot of Islamic teaching, talks. But because I'm not a man with a so-called beard, I was not allowed to talk in the mosque because I'm not registered as a asatizah with Pergas. This is one problem that I am encountering. But to me, it's not an issue because there are a lot of ways to propagate Islam through the social media or whatever. So this is something that I hope we can look at it, professionalize, asatizize professionals.
I'm a bit traditional. Although I don't look traditional, I don't have a beard and a songko, but I'm a bit traditional in my view. I'm a traditionalist, if there's a category. So I think it's difficult for us to, I have to disagree with you about the asatizahs and so on, because I think at the end of it, firstly, this is not an AMP convention, this is the Malay Muslim Professional Convention. Secondly, I think we have asatizahs on board, and when we want to do certain things, rather than, I think, being critical of the asatizahs, why don't we work with them and see how we can assist them and so on. And at the end of it, I think there is some barakah in religious knowledge.
Sorry,
which,
I don't mean I want to put us in that. I'm not saying that they are good, they have done a good job. Even Islamic
No,
teaching,
I'm about to give
the profession has to do a role here.
So I'll give you an example. An asatiz, there are many. Afif here is an example of an asatiza who made that switch. And he's a very good. He's not just any scholar. He's a very good scholar on Malaysian politics, and it's that shows. And there are many other examples. So I think we should not dichotomize as much, and we should work together rather than. Afif, you want to add something? Sorry.
No, not really, not on this particular issue, but I think some of our panel members would have something to add regarding that.
Is your point?
On the right on the point of procedure, how we should operate this workshop.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think your intentions are good. You brought us here, you want us to discuss some of these issues. It might be good if you facilitate the discussion among ourselves.
Okay.
I don't think you want to get the impression that you are under siege. We are expecting an answer for you for every single remark we make. We are expecting you to quickly respond and say, that's my answer.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's it. I don't agree. This is.
Yeah.
If those I agree, I'll take notes. Those I don't agree, sorry guys, shove it. That's finished. I think if you will play a tremendous role, an important role, if you could facilitate this process of interaction among all members. And of course, at the end of the day, you do the summary and say, yeah, this is what you have noted, using my authority as chairman. This is a very good
I was about to come to that.
Yeah.
Because there are so many hands up, and I need
Yes,
to
I
give everyone a
understand.
chance to speak.
So if it's helpful, if you could chair the meeting as opposed to you could actually be a very active, it's almost a two-way affair where it's the chairman versus somebody. It's not the members. I hope you don't mind that as an observation. Yeah, but I think also, I come from a perspective that we fully understand that, as we see it, AMP does not perceive religion as a prime area of focus of AMP as such. But you have facilitated this opportunity of us getting together to discuss this subject because it's relevant to the Malay Muslim community. So I think that's important, and nobody's expecting AMP to implement all this. But the moment you are able to facilitate this discussion, come out with a report, and nudge various other religious organizations, hey, you guys, you've got to maybe take a closer look at this. I think you've already played a tremendous role. And this, I want to say that basically you're charting the way forward. But it would be nice to actually, if we could all actually nudge various grassroots Malay Muslim religious organizations eventually to have their also plan. Perkas to have its plan, Pertapis to have its plan, Darul Arkam to have its plan, Jamia to have its plan for the next 3 to 5 years, so that we are all actually seeing growth and not stagnation within the Malay Muslim community in Singapore. So it's a critical role that you play. That if you could actually listen to all these views, maybe eventually present the perspective and nudge various organizations to do something about our program. Thank you.
Really sorry for missing. Yeah, please.
So my name is Hannah. I think I have like 2 parts to my question. So one is basically on the religion panel itself. Basically, I think and the survey and the perception survey and how it goes on. So I'm wondering, because I think like when you talk about Islam, you talk about different understandings. You yourself concluded that you're a traditionalist, and so when you talk about religion, there's no one definition of Islam. And so when you're talking about the panel itself and how we discuss, I appreciate that you went out and talked to various groups. How represented is gender-wise in the panel? One, and in terms of the, because I think when you're talking about a panel, I think it must be representative as well, even when you're talking about a perception survey. And secondly, I think when you're talking about Muslim population of around 400,000 plus, I think
650.
already 650. And talking about statistics, is 350 a bit too small, although it is representative? I think the minimum is around 1,000 to 2,000 when you need to have a more representative sample. And also, I think when you're talking about religion, and talking about other panels, if you really look at when you talk about youth being disengaged from Islam and thus the moral issues come up, do you ever think to try to put out a recommendation that this is also a national issue? When we're talking about youth, I mean, like you see Islam is a focal problem, that they don't have enough religious-backed education, and that's why it is a problem for us as Muslims. Whereas they might be experiencing issues of marginalization, isolation in secular schools, and so that we may not be able to understand to look at religion per se. And when you're talking about the question of asatiza, again, I think the problem, I think all of us are understanding in a way that too much focus is on asatiza, because Islam is not just for the asatiza, it's for all. I don't think the burden of understanding Islam is just on the asatiza. So in terms of how you articulated the question in the survey, was the question just particularly understanding what the youth perceive asatiza's role, or were there other questions that ask you on religious issues, and how the parents practice, how they understand Islam, or if the question was just purely, do you think asatiza is doing enough? Because that was what the sense of. So I just need to get some clarification, because I don't have some information. And so I think for now that's my question.
Is there something related to the point?
Yeah, somehow I'm also related to what everyone's. If I may suggest, because if you can have us to focus on a particular problem at one time, because sometimes we are asking about what is the kind of Islamic learning that we want. Sometimes we are discussing about asatiza as an institution. Sometimes we are talking about future Muslim community. So if we can focus at one time, one particular issue, well, let's wait for some time, then we move on. Otherwise, sometimes go to this room and then I go to the other room. I thought we started on the issue of what kind of Islamic learning that we aspire at, what kind of Islamic learning that we wish to see, and we bring in youth into the picture. So if we can agree on that particular question first, and spend a bit of time on that, and then we move on to the issue of asatiza or professionals or professionals, whatever it is, then probably it will be more hopeful, if I may suggest.
She has something specific about the survey. Can I get a permission to address her question on survey, because that has an impact on everything? Or should we just focus on the what do you guys think?
Yes, please answer that question.
Your gender representation. You're talking about panel members, or you're talking about the survey? Because the survey, in fact, there are more women, slightly more women being surveyed, being asked the question. So Hailey, obviously, she sits with us, and I have to say that it is not representative. We are very male-centric, if you like. Not because we are male-centric in our views, but there are more men, in our panel. That is not that we didn't make an effort with it, but we have problems getting them to come and stuff like that. But we get their views at an individual level. That's one. The second is that about the sample size. The board. The target is in the board of the interview. So.
Yeah, the sample size was small, partly because of the timing of the survey. We didn't have enough time to do a more comprehensive survey. So it was based on really experience. We have to do it quickly, get it done. I don't think it's representative of the Muslim community, but it's enough to give us an indication of what's happening on the ground. Maybe that's why we need to have a convention, then we get more views from people who are practitioners out there. They tell us that the surveys are wrong. As it is, I think generally we agree that some aspects of it are quite okay. But yeah, your insights will be helpful. If do we have a marker? Yeah. Maybe if I can, I'm not going to facilitate the session, but so I'm Edwin from NUS. But maybe I think the points raised by Ustaz Hanan and Rizwan is very, very valid. And maybe to help the discussion a bit more, because we want it to be free-flowing and fluid, and not say that, okay, AMP has decided on certain things and then just validate whatever we are trying to do. Maybe we should focus on 3 key issues. Number one is a more policy-focused issue. As you all know, just very quickly, we are moving towards a post-religious society in Singapore. And when you talk about conversion out of Islam, it is not only affecting the Muslim community per se, it is also affecting the Chinese community. There is a lot of conversion out of Buddhism and Taoism into Christianity. And the reason for this is simple. If Europe is called a post-Christian society, Singaporeans right now feel that religion is like a marketplace. Right? If the Christians are offering me good goodies and a good job, I'll be a Christian. And if Islam can offer me a better deal, I'll be a Muslim tomorrow. So if you look at the statistics, I mean, I've been active in Darul Arkam a little bit. A lot of Chinese are coming to Islam. Not because they look at Muslims in Singapore that will bring them out of Islam actually, but because they travel around the world and see how Islam is panning itself out in the West, for example. So the first thing maybe we need to think about as we discuss is how can we make Singapore a more religiously oriented society? Right? I've been trying to engage ministers on this. The problem is that because the government is so secular, the citizenry has become more secular than the government itself. So another problem that we face, and we did mention this, is this Muslim, non-Muslim marriage within the Muslim community and the rise of marriages in civil courts. So the first policy issue, what should we do to bring up to the government to make them more religiously sensitive? Because that has other implications. That means we should need to have hierarchy again, for example. The hierarchy was removed, as you all know, because of the Christians. They were afraid of Christian tribalism, they removed. They were actually very happy with the Muslim side. The late Ustaz Abdullah Al-Jufri crafted the whole syllabus with Syed Ahmad and all, and it became quite a good curriculum. So the first policy-oriented question. The second is a more practical implementation question, which Ustaz Hanan brought up just now. How do we operationalize, and I think also some brothers also talk about it, how do we operationalize Islamic education in ways that could reach out to different segments of the Muslim community? Take note, as the brother said just now, the professionals are living Islam, not really the people on the ground. The gangsters, they have tattoos and all, and then you tell them you are non-Muslim, they'll kill you for it. But you ask them whether they pray, they do it. So this is the amazing thing about Islam. People come into the religion, they don't question that much, but they remain Muslim until they die. But once they start to question and doubts start to come in, they become atheists. Take note that there is also an increasing number of Muslims becoming Sikhs. As about the latest figures, check the latest statistic. I was like almost amazed when I looked at it. So what is it about Islam that is not appealing? And what is it so appealing about Sikhism now? Right? Okay, we don't have to talk about Christianity because Christianity is an appealing religion because they're highly professional. Of course, there's a lot of problems with the churches right now. But still, in general, if you take the balance sheet, they are doing well. So how do we operationalize Islamic education? And please give your feedback on how do we change the whole texture of Islamic education. AMP will not do it, but we need to come up with ways and means and proposals to the convention. And thirdly, how do we bridge the people who are not even concerned about religion to a level where they need this religious education and to be engaged in it. And here we're not only talking about the young people. I'm telling you, we say it in Malay, sorry if you can understand a bit of Malay, I will explain to you. We always talk about kenakalan anak orang-orang muda, right? Young people being very naughty and they get into illicit premarital sex and all. But what has not been addressed in the community is kenakalan orang-orang tua. You may laugh. We have now, we are discussing it in the social panel. People who are married by the time they are 45 years old and above, and now we have a lot of cases, we are documenting it, married for 25 years, and then they get into a divorce, and then some of them also leave the religion at the same time, usually the woman. And this is more endemic in the Indian community, where the woman will go on and marry Hindus, and then they don't become Muslim anymore. So how do we bring down this religion or the religious message all the way down to the level of the individual? And here, Islamic education in mosques, in Andalus, in Muiz Academy cannot do the job. We have to go to the level of the individual. Some people have said to me, oh, use Facebook. I went into Facebook, it became a tragedy of my life. So I deactivated my account. It's such a waste of time. People don't talk about issues, they talk about everything. right? So let's think about these three things. The first is the policy level issue. The second is the detection of Islamic aviation, and then the third is how do we bring it down to the micro level, to the single individual, from the young who are on the internet to the old kenakalan orang tua ni problem, who this pakcik-pakcik, they are out there. They are taxi drivers or they are working in some kind of places, and they don't care about Islam anymore now. They want concern about being part of. So maybe that can help the chairman think about.
So, shall we focus first on the youth issues, because the second issue basically that you brought up. Sorry, the third issue that you brought up.
How to reach out.
How to reach out. So can we focus the discussion on that first, and then we'll move on. Can I get you to help with that? Just jot down the 3-point policy, individual level outreach, which is basically youth outreach, and Islamic education. How to? Sorry, sister, you're saying you wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Please.
So hi, my name is Shai again. I'm 21 years old and I've been studying overseas for the past 3 years. And I just wanted to say how I've realized that I think what is important for the younger generation is to be able to ask questions about religion without feeling like we're being judged, without feeling like we're being stigmatized, because my little sister, she's 13, she has been asking questions, but her religious teacher actually told her that asking questions is her being a Muslim, and saying that to the 13-year-old, I don't think that's agreeable at all. And I think that it's really important to foster the kind of atmosphere, not only in schools, but also in families, among parents and the youngsters as well, that it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to doubt things.
That would fall under Islamic education, how we can.
The point is not that the young people don't like us to be judgmental.
Everybody don't like to be.
Everyone.
Yeah. I don't know. I just quick comment. I grew up with the Ustaz Qabla Al-Jifri kind of era, right? And we like to be told what to do. You don't do this, you don't do this.
Speak for yourself. Well, I don't do that.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Right? Sadistic, right? But I don't know, this younger generation is true. I have students now, the ladies in my class, they ask me, fundamental question, I couldn't answer. I asked one answer to that, he was also stuck with the question. He said, you tell us that Muslims have to follow the Quran, but your Prophet don't follow the Quran. These are Muslims. So why? Because the Quran says marry 4, but the Prophet marry 9. So explain to me in the light of the Quran. Say what? I mean, from that, Ustaz Rahman and see my FB account. So this kind of questions, you're right, and they don't like to tell.
Can just come back to the core, the thrust of this panel, that is engaging the youth. In other words, we have here a target group of youth which are very worrying us in terms of their religious issue. Then we are going to see what is the learning strategy to approach this. As Ridwan says, madrasah, they have a structure. All the various subjects, whatever it is, all there. But will this structure be relevant or suitable to this group of youth that they want? So I think in this panel they come out with what is the mode of learning for this group. We will be very interesting. That's why we hear more voices on this. I think it would be, because there's so many service providers, there are under those, so many people doing service, but they're targeted at different levels, especially Islam, purely on the more educated people who go there for slightly higher level of lectures. So perhaps after this, after you have collated all these ideas, maybe it will be interesting to gather all the service providers, come together and say, here is a proposal of how we should engage this youth, and then to crystallize this into operational strategies for the various service providers.
In this context, may I have your permission to say maybe what Mohd is doing, Teen Alive and Youth Alive. I suspect this is not the traditional way of doing learning in Islam. So probably for the permission of the others, is this a model which we can improve on or what? So it will be interesting after this for all the service providers who provide services to all the population of the youth can have an idea of how they should rethink or improve on their own strategies so we have a common strategy towards a common objective.
One of the key problems actually we identified was the fact that they are not even coming. This is a group of youth who, no matter how fantastic your Islamic education program is, they are not coming to, how do we outreach them? So we had some proposals earlier that I like to gather some views about this as well, which is, can we are we ready for, let's say, a graffiti art competition? Are we ready for a skateboard competition? The idea is to get them engaged, and within that program, perhaps you can, put in some religious message, knowledge, or whatever. I'd like to hear that, whether we are ready for that, because in the West it's already happening. So, do you want to say that?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nasir from Sindisam. Basically, we have been, at my level at Sindisam, we've been dealing with a lot of the youths actually, and I can understand that this is a real problem in terms of engaging in the youth. And we are not the only ones. From the time of the Prophet, he has always been concerned about the youth. From the time Imam Ghazali, he is concerned with the youth, and we will not be the first and we won't be the last. But we do have a unique situation where our youths are disengaged, like he has mentioned, and we need to really start doing things to engage them. Like Khairuddin said, he left Facebook. He's actually inna lillah wa inna ilaihi raji'un. Because a lot of our asatizas in the West, and I've been dealing with a lot of scholars from the West as well, and they are engaging with the youth. No matter how busy they are, we have Ustaz Osman, Imam Tahir, Anwar, and Sheikh Hamza, so whatever it is, they have somebody who is there on Facebook. We may say all we want about Facebook, we don't want it, we don't like it, it's a bad influence and so on and so forth, like television is when it was first introduced. But the medium is there. If we don't use it, too bad. Other people are going to use it. The evangelical Christians are going to use it. So we have to start thinking about this. And I don't think there's anything wrong with our education of in the madrasa in terms of tawheed, and this is all good for them to continue, but we need to maybe add on a little bit more things in terms of engagement programs, things for them to think, like Brother Rizwan said, about things more intellectual discussions and things like that. Because I think you'll be hard pressed to find an asatiza to answer questions, really good questions that we would have at the intellectual level. So again, I don't think we need to really go down. There's a lot of symptoms, like you say, of apostasy, teenage pregnancies. These are all our symptoms at this time. We need to look. The symptoms give us a good idea in terms of what we want to address, but we may want to see how we want to improve our Islamic education. The pillar of our Muslim community should and will remain our asatizas and our Muslim professionals. Like our brother said, our Muslim professionals can also educate the asatizas and can also educate the Muslim community. There should not be any dichotomy about that. And there are many cases of outstanding scholars who did not come from the madrasa education, especially in the West. Professor Vincent Cornell and Sheikh Abdul Hakim Mullah, they didn't come from madrasa where they studied 16 years of their life. And they later on became top-notch scholars in the Islamic field. And even our current mufti, he didn't come from madrasa. He came from a secular education. He then went on to madrasa. And our even deputy mufti Nazaruddin also the same. It seems that the mufti office is not taking people from the madrasa. goes to show a lot. But in any case, I think what they want to see is that they want to see this kind of program. Like Ustaz Afif is an excellent example actually. That you beyond asatiza doesn't make you to become, you have to be an ustad and sit at the mosque and give khutbah and give lectures. That's not what it means, and in its entirety. And we should develop this further. I think in terms of like you said, the texture of Islamic education is something that we all can think about. And if we can, like Rizwan said, nudge the right people at the right time to tell them, okay, these are the things we feel that can be done. And I really want to propose, which I mentioned to Brother Nawab, is the establishment of a Center for Divinity Studies. If they find it difficult to have a Center for Islamic Studies, maybe a Center for Divinity Studies, and we can have studies of Islam and Christianity and all the religion that we have in Singapore. That may go down well when we ask the Prime Minister later on to have that to be established, I think. And we can have really good scholars from all over the world. In fact, Dr. Abdul Hakim Murad from Cambridge University is the head of the divinity faculty. So as a Muslim, he is the head of the divinity faculty, and they also study a lot of all the religions. And this will help us actually to frame as this institute can then talk to Pergas, talk to the madrasas and tell them, okay, this is what we think, this is the research we have done, and AFP can give their input and so on. So I think we have to go beyond looking at the symptoms and really think about what we want to put into our Islamic education. And our asatizas really need to engage. That's why I've noticed, I've done my events in the last so many years, even from the time I was at Rajaratnam. There are no asatizas who attend our events. And we are talking about outstanding scholars from all over the world, and no asatizas come to our event. Probably they think that they have equal or more knowledge than the scholars that we bring. But they don't see the engagement of the scholars with the young. Example I give you, I brought a scholar, Ustaz Osman. Actually he's a level of a sheikh, but he asked me to bring him to a place where he can find the problems of the youth, where he can find disengaged youths who are not Muslims, not praying, and with tattoo and skateboarding and all of this. So I brought him to Clarke Quay, and from there he saw what are the problems, and he said, Nasir, it's a serious problem. No one can convince me that you don't have this problem in Singapore. You cannot tell me that Singaporeans youth are all in the mosque and all are praying and this and that. No one, he will not believe it. And because he wants to see, that's how engaging he is. How many of our asatizas who are actually now going down to Clarke Quay or Boat Quay to see these things? Not to be going there to drink with them and all that. But at least to see and to engage them with some good programs, inshallah. And actually we did a program later on. We screened a video and about a Muslim skateboarder who became Muslim after he's a professional skateboarder who was earning millions of dollars. In the US you can do that. You can become a skateboarder and become a millionaire at the same time. I'm not sure how, but they have done that. And we showed a film screening of this, and we called people from all walks of life, all colors, all kind of clothing and caps and all that, all came for this video screening at Singapore Post. And we saw that we could engage with these people, and they enjoyed the video screening, they enjoyed the discussion session with Ustaz Osman, Mustafa Davis from America and so on. And I'm saddened because people ask me, why isn't this not engaging with foreign, it's actually Ustaz Shakir, I think the brother was chairing the discussion. And the people ask me, why Islam is not engaging with our local asatiza? And I want to ask them, where are they? How come they are not coming forward to attend our events and engaging with these youths when these youths are coming in the hundreds? So that's why I'm saying we cannot treat the symptoms so fast, but we can look at how we can go back to the madrasa education and start them from primary one. How we can address those issues.
Can I get a sense from the audience? What do you guys think of what Brother Nasir spoke about earlier? A video screening of of something like that. Are we ready for that?
My comment has got to do with between individual outreach and textual studies education and the things that Brother Nasir said, and you also mentioned about gravity and all. And Reverend Malcolm Tan and I, we have been involved in civil engagement. Even last night, until late night, we were still engaging about addressing the youth. And probably he may want to share the Christian community's experience and his counter-culturalist approach. I think videos, graffiti, arts, sports, what have you, in fact life is not just in the class. The number probably the ANP gathers may be limited to the registered participants, but we also have more than 10K youth involved in many other, anyway. But personally I think this means and probably teasers to reach out to them, to bring them to the fore. But eventually, as the title suggests, to foster an engaged and learned community, eventually we cannot simply feel good about things, how we feel the ecstasy and all, but eventually we want to develop a really profound, learned community. Then we've got to deal inevitably with the content, the depth. The names that Brother Nasir mentioned about Syekh Hamzah Yusuf and Syekh Abdul Murad and so on and so forth, yes, they did not start at madrasah, but eventually they go back to the madrasah. They spend their significant years in the schools, at the feet of mashayikh, in Morocco, Syria, and so on and so forth. So they have that structured studies that give them good grounding and depth, and by which they can engage with others. So my point is, well, it's good to have all these gravity arts and so on and so forth, but we must have in mind that eventually we want to develop what kind of youth, what kind of mind, content that we want. And that is also a question that we ask. I mean, at my end, for example, sometimes when we hold certain issues that we think that, hey, this is important, this is of content, but again, the participation and all. So even the idea of Sufism, for example, like I was saying last night with Reverend Malcolm Tan, even the idea of Sufism. Sufism in Islam is not just simply about feeling, it's not about spiritual experience. Sufism in Islam is depth, it's content, it's a framework, it's a philosophical framework. And so I think while I support the idea of outreach with all these means, strategies, but I think we also have to bear in mind that eventually we need to develop an engaged and learned community. And therefore we need also to develop certain programs. It may not be structured as Usuluddin, Fiqh, Usul Fiqh, and even we may not name them as Usul Fiqh, we can name them with a different name, right? But the content, the building blocks, the foundations must be there. And here we need to identify what are these basic concepts, what are these foundational ideas that we need to develop. And this goes not just with the youth and everybody, but also with the Asatizah. And that is also a question that, with the Asatizah, they know that I'm the naughty ones with them, I'm always working with them. But I also think that we also need to empathize with them. There's so much expectations on that. They've got to do interfaith dialogue, they've got to do MROs, they've got to do youth, they've got to do, in fact, they are doing that. They're involved in the orchard. I mean, our MROs, our YPOs, they are involved. So probably we need to think of certain strategy, not to put too much expectation on them to the extent that they cannot carry that. Yeah. My last point is with regard to Part 1 as a suggestion. I think I'm all for different approach, a live or whatever. But personally, and I'm speaking as Hanan, not as Mace, for living reasons. I think we ought to provide. We cannot standardize, we cannot unify the approach. A life alone will not do, or simply Islam alone. So I'm not so much in favor of standardizing the approach. We must have different, because different youth will have different needs. So I may, like yourself, okay, you want to ask. Khairuddin doesn't want to ask, okay. You want to ask, you go to Single Islam, doesn't want to ask, you go to Madrasah, Mosque, for example, okay, you don't get to ask, and so on and so forth, for example, right? So I hope that, I mean, the analogy I always use is like, I imagine the Muwatta of Imam Malik. Imam Malik, when asked to develop a curriculum, to standardize a curriculum, he refused it. His Muwatta is basically one of those many. Yeah, unlike the Mashhab of Osman, unlike the Osman's Mashhab, right, which has been standardized for justified reason, right? But Imam Malik refused to make his book, textbook, as the state book, so to speak. So that we must allow varieties, and therefore different youth have different approach or different inclination, and they can choose. And probably our Christian communities have a lot of also to share with that. If you don't mind me asking you, welcome to.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I have a tea and Tuti.
And brother Azhar.
Tuti, please. No,
Please, please.
Assalamualaikum. I'm a student at King's College London. I have two questions. I'm not so sure where I'm supposed to fit it in. But okay, if anybody can answer, please answer me. Because do we actually know why the students are not attending madrasahs in the first place? I mean, do we know why they are disengaged? Maybe the only reason why they are not attending is because they don't have pocket money to go to. They don't even have pocket money to go to school. You are expecting them to take the bus to go to madrasah. Maybe it's just that something as practical as that. We can address these issues. We can save the ones which can be saved. Okay, so we know that. Do we know what the reasons are? Second question is a bit political. Not sure. Okay. We know Singapore government is secular nature. So we have to know the limits to the extent we can infuse Islamic values. Why I say this is this. I used to do Mendaki tuition scheme, madrasah, small kids doing studying English, maths, and science on Saturdays. So we have briefings for the tutors in the morning, and one day, I think 2 years ago or so, the head tutor came up and said, okay, this came across from the headquarters. They are saying, please try not to do any religious teaching in the classrooms. We are here to educate them, leave the religious part at home. So I was, So I'm not sure who she was directing it to, whether it was a general thing, maybe it was the Muslim tutors, maybe the non-Muslim tutors, I'm not sure. But this kind of raises the question, we know where the OB markers are, and we know where the lines are drawn by the government, we can draw more effective policies, so we can exploit all the channels that are available. My last suggestion is actually a cheeky point. I would like to almost propose to the producers of Anak Metropolitan and the script writers, if they can come up with something as saucy as Anak Metropolitan, attract so many youths to watch it, why not do Anak Muslim Singapore or something like that? I'm sure they can do it, they are very talented. And if there are something else can help, incorporate some of your hadith and stuff inside, I'm sure they can do it.
Basically, the use of television dramas, to reach out.
Something like Anak Metropolitan. Even if it's name, you will get the message.
Okay. Brother Azhar, I just finished school last year, so I'm glad that some of my points are actually touched on by Mr. Anand and regarding the educational system. It's a number of approaches. So we want to understand. We know that there are different approaches, so we want to have best practices, but we cannot standardize. So we want to decide what are the best the best practices, but we want to have different best practices for different approaches. So in terms of approach, she actually got to the crux of the problem, which is we need to identify the cause of it. The cause of all this, what we highlighted as the key highlight in the topic, which was the 60-70% of people not having madrasah. So to highlight that, can I propose that we have that as one column, because that is the cause that will affect all the three different aspects of the discussion. Because with the cause, you can decide on policies, you can decide on individual outreach, and also the method of mediation. So and can we get some feedback from the ground in terms of the causes? Because we know that there is no one central source of data. So can we get some feedback from the ground? We need that kind of feedback in order for us to maybe identify the real causes. So,
any related point to that?
One more thing. Regarding divinity college or faculty in Singapore, can you propose that this be held in one of the major institutions like US?
Yeah, that's the idea.
And so that we don't have modules being undertaken by, for example, unrelated faculties like Malay studies. And one more thing is because through that channel we can actually get qualified scholars. I mean, maybe people from a more more religious background, maybe somebody from a proper Islamic school, not just people with credentials or any PhD. So that's the reason why, and they can formulate models.
My name is Rajaratnam. I'm from Mohd Home. So we're taking care of the juvenile offenders. What I'm sharing today is the very practical profile of children that we face or we take care of about 70 children. So we talk about disengaged youth, we're talking about broken families, we're talking about youth at risk, we have all that. So we have, our experience is that we do a basic survey in the home. 50% of the children who comes into the home, they do not know Shahada, they do not know script. So these are some of the programs that we have. And engaging the youth in programs and all that, yes, we do. We do it through campaigns, we do it through programs, we do it through sports, we do it at our level. Okay, that is one point. One of our concern is beyond the home, beyond staying in the home for 1 or 2 years, what else? How do we sustain this for the children, for the youth? And we're not just talking about the child under our care, for instance, we're also looking at them and their siblings. So it's not just about their education, but it's also about their religious knowledge, religious engagement, and continuity in their practices. That's one. So from the experience of running a home, we also engage or have networking with other homes. I think what's also missing, there's this population of high population of Muslim youth in children's home, example, in Singapore Boys' Home, or in Singapore Girls' Home, where I think, yeah, they do have religious teachers coming in, but I think it's very minimal, and I think we should look into something that we could actually come together, the Muslim group or the religious, the Asatizah, or whoever come in to da'wah in this, because they are the population who actually move up into the prison system, and hopefully that if there are some religious intervention that we do to these young youth who are at a very young age, we can actually make some impact. And during some of my interaction also, example in prisons, these are one thing that I heard. Example in terms of attending Friday prayers for the prisoners, it's very limited as they are getting. I think there's only a portion of the population who gets the opportunity to perform Friday prayers. So how do we look into da'wah in these institutions?
Well, just to so-called respond to that, a lot of the Asatizahs actually do good work in prisons, actually. I know because my uncle is in prison. So when he comes out, he tells me, I mean this with Asatizah and all this, and they're doing a lot of good work. The only problem is that there's not enough capacity. I mean, we always complain a lot about Asatizahs, but we don't realize there are really too few Asatizahs in Singapore. And because of that, it's so difficult for them to do so many things. If you actually do, we pick it as a diary, right? If you do like the diary of an ordinary Asatizah in Singapore, I'm telling you, they are really highly overworked people. We are very lucky, we are professional, 9 to 5, maybe for me a bit longer, but they really work long hours. Some of them are teaching in madrasas, after work they have to supplement their time in the mosque. And really, and then we want them to go to prison, we want them to go to the homes. The first people who are going to get mental problems in Singapore are Asatizahs. So I'm not in defense of them, but I'm just telling you the realities on the ground. But you're right, they have to know that this is one issue that they need to get into.
I have some question based on what you mentioned just now. What do you think exactly, from your own perception and experience with that, what do you think is the thing that's hindering the Asatizah from going into the boys' home? Aside from the points raised by
It has to be a group or an institution to lead, to actually approach it through the ministry and make it into a structured program to homes. Talking about a secular home, let's say, okay, I won't mention the name, circular home, they take in Muslim children. They give an option for the child to go to the mosque on weekends for religious class. But they do not actually encourage the children. I mean, they do tell the children you can pray, but I think that's about it. But for children as young as 8, 9 and so on, I mean, our children, I think also we have to actually continuously tell them. So I see it as a structured group. It could be led by mosque or by any group, but it has to be a structured program, presenting it to the ministry and actually running it very.
Because for the prisons, I believe that Supergas has been very active providing the necessary tutors and so on. But for this one, I think we have been going through together something that,
If there are so many Muslims in this home, why can't we just take them and put to Muhammadiyah or Jamia or set up another home? Then we can have a completely Islamic
Yeah, I mean,
exposure.
that is the decision of the court or the ministry to decide where the children should go. It depends. Actually, it's a number of factors that they consider before they put the child to a home. But Muhammadiyah itself, yeah, we are looking after the Muslim children, but boys to minority population, at least 50 to 60% of Muslim boys there. I'm not sure about the girls' home side. But prisons example, what I noticed is, to the best of my knowledge, there are 3 levels of the Islamic approach by, I think, I'm not sure, Breakout. The level 2, level 3, in terms of classes there are, but I'm talking about the Friday prayers example. I think there are issues where not everybody get a chance because there is not sufficient people or the imams coming to lead the Friday prayers. Because I think that's the basics.
Sorry, I think the lady first.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Yaki. I'm from Temasek Polytechnic. Before that, I was from Madrasah Malay Islamia, in Singapore. Okay, so basically, most of us are talking about causes of why students don't go to part-time madrasahs or why you quit. For me, during my free time, I teach some of the students who actually went to these part-time madrasahs, and the parent came to me and actually asked, should I continue this madrasah education? Because she went to this part-time madrasah, which is just because it's near to her house, and she just said that they just repeat the same thing over and over again. So she was asking me whether she should stop sending the child there because they just basically repeat the same thing. They have been there for about 4 years, but they just keep using the same books and such.
This is at the mosque or?
No, it's just some tuition center at the she doesn't know the name really. Yeah, so I think that what can be done is like Mohd or something, they can implement a proper strict certified teaching scheme so that or like proper association so that no one can just set up any religious institute and just teach religious stuff and not properly maintaining it. What's the use we just keep repeating the same stuff? And so that is one of the cause of why some students they actually stop. So when some of their friends or relatives ask them, have you ever been to madrasah? Just say, yes, I've been to madrasah, just for the sake of that. Yeah, but you don't really actually learn something and actually keep it. Okay, and the second thing is parents. Parents play a huge role in ensuring that the students actually keep Islam true in their hearts. Because I teach religious subjects, I go to their house and I teach Quran to some of these students. During Maghrib time, when I came to their house, they actually had music on. Yeah, they had music on, so I was quite shocked. And the mother didn't even have. And when I came, they weren't even ready to, start the lesson. Like they were still undressed properly, and their Quran wasn't still there. And I had to confiscate the student's phone because she was playing Justin Bieber. Okay. So yeah. So when she was teaching, when I was teaching her, I keep telling her that thing that she should not play music during Maghrib. I had to tell her slowly so she could really get it. And afterwards, right after Ngaji, then it's all everything went off and we just need to bring back. So, but the one thing I noticed that the mother doesn't mind. That's the thing. See, she really doesn't care about this, and I had to drag the mom and talk to her about this instead. So what I want to highlight is that some students, they are not actually bad because they're just solely based on themselves. It's because of their home education as well. Okay, like I have a friend from my school. Okay, she's not like another student like me. She's from Changi, and she went to this madrasah class and she has like so-called graduated from that. And she did learn a few things, and when she went to college she stopped. But when she met me, she wanted to start studying again. So she wanted to teach the Quran and stuff. But she came to me and told me that her parents like don't really encourage her to do that, because they just say, you have learned this a few times like last time before college, why do you want to learn it again? And she wants her daughter to do it herself. But because her mother doesn't wear it, she feels that if she wears it, her mother will feel offended.
So basically the parents...
Yeah, so I'm curious to know about the parents' role. Like, what are you guys trying to do about that? Because, yeah, basically from what I learned in my madrasah is that parents are the key to ensuring that the students are good and should.
I'm Abhishek from Little. I prefer to speak Malay. Sekarang kita ada problem masalah satu. Jadi bila kita ada program mudik dahulu, bawa mereka balik pada hilangkan tempoh dan sebagainya. Jadi problem kita hari ini kita satu sikit daripada lawatan gitu. Banyak orang ada tempoh. Jadi kalau kita dalam perbincangan ini kita boleh bincang polisi kita untuk government supaya budak-budak yang nak ada tattoo mesti umur dia 21 dan dapat keizinan daripada ibu bapa dia baru tattoo tu boleh di apa mereka. Jadi saya harap kali ini kita boleh bawa kepada ministry.
Basically, to translate, he's from the one of the mosques in Singapore, and basically they have a program where they help people want to remove their tattoos to do so. And he's asking whether there's a way we could, make it more difficult for people to have tattoos on, and whether there can be some sort of regulation in place for that person.
I think what you mean is legislate like smoking, age or 18 girls is not to buy cigarettes.
So you're saying like mandate and legislate, if you are below 18 you shouldn't
You cannot have, you are not allowed to.
Muslims cannot have them.
You must have something that prevent them from doing it.
Yeah. I'm not a lawyer. Any lawyers here?
Raman.
They already
There is, right? Yeah. What was the legislation?
Right now, if I remember, it's 18 years old. Below 18, you cannot donate.
Right. Yeah, correct.
But I think
it's 16 years old. Okay.
There is a legislation, but I think there's no enforcement. It's a bit like smoking,
But also at the same time, we must also understand. Okay, it's not just the tattoo, but also government have. We also have TV shows like Miami, and all that. They really do nice tattoos. It's only I prefer that they do it on canvas. But in any case, I think there are certain things it's hard. We should know some of the boundaries of the government. I think reintroducing ILK is a really waste of our time. I really think the government is not even going to consider. In the first place, we don't have statistics to show that when we had ILK, that we had good people. Do we have statistics to show that when we had ILK, Muslims were all law-abiding citizens? We went to the mosque, except for you, and everybody attended Ustaz Abdullah's class, and everything was so in order. I don't think so. When I was attending ILK, we had gangsters problem, we had kids with tattoos, maybe not so pronounced and nice as now, but the problems do exist. So you cannot say and go back to the government and say. Personally, I think it's better to be left out of school, because, like you said, the problem of I'm worried about the evangelism of Christianity actually, and that is a true problem. And the government has a good no serious. The government has a serious concern about that because
And there's a law.
because of the way. It's not nothing wrong with Christianity, but it's the way, it's the approach may be too strong kind of approach and may affect other students of other.
Correct. If I'm not defending Christianity, I went to a Christian school myself, Methodist school. I didn't become a Christian. This thing about the Christian groups, the charismatic groups, for example, they don't actually go to Muslims and say, "Come to Islam." They don't. They actually show through good example of their lives. And I think this is where we have a problem, right? They look at our community and they say, if you look at the Asatizah, semua seleke, all these things. I look at the pastors. So I would be very careful to say that the Christians, really there is a law in Singapore. If a Christian evangelical come to a Muslim and say, "I want you to come into Christianity," that person can be prosecuted in the eyes of law. We know that, it's clear in the legal books. The problem is that, for me, we have not done well to show, as a Muslim community, that we are highly more organized and more professional than other religious groups. So people are going to Christianity not because they hate Islam, no, but because they admire what the Christians are doing. So we need to reorientate our minds a little, just to explain.
Okay. Brother?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mohd, and I'm from NTU, NTU Muslim Society. I think to give a bit more my limited observation of the top 5% of the community in the universities. And I think there itself, just the top 5%, we have quite a diverse background of people, I mean Muslims and so on and so forth. And I think I just want to touch on just a lot of the points that have been mentioned now. But firstly, I would like to touch on Brother Haruddin's point about the fact that we need to have, I will touch on the individual outreach. Basically, I think for the individual outreach, it really boils down to, especially for we're talking about youths who are not inclined to the religion. I mean, if you talk about youths who are inclined, there's Simply Islam. I mean, Simply Islam attracts people. There's Al-Maghrib we just set up. And then there's the traditional classes in the mosque. And there's a live program and so on and so forth. So I think specifically for the people who are not inclined to the religion, I think that has to come from the people, maybe for example like myself, who I see the need for individuals to actually do this. So I'm actually thinking maybe is there a possible way to link up all the different, I would say, phases of engagement. What do I mean by this? For example, just now I think Ustaz Hanan mentioned about how we need to root it back to the fundamentals of Islam, which is true, which is really very true. Because at the end of the day, you can have graffiti events, you can have soccer events, you can have all these sports events, or maybe, for example, I'm not sure, skateboarding events. But at the end of the day, if you don't bring back, it's just a one-off thing, you just attract them and then nothing goes on beyond that. Just to add on, I think also to talk about Brother Nasir's point about how there is a disengagement between, or detachment between service providers as well as asatizahs, and so I'm not saying, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying that maybe we could have some links. How do I see this? Okay, for example, for those who are not inclined to religion, we have, for example, these activities, graffiti, skateboarding, and whatnot. There needs to be a transition for them after they've exposed to the beauty of Islam. They want to feel, they feel motivated. And I specifically have experienced this within my own peers in school. They go through certain programs that, for example, Muslim Society, you have certain programs that really with Miss Ramatu Nisa is here. Through engaging the youths who are at risk or youths who are from broken families, they see that, hey, this is something that is beneficial for me to do. And so what needs to be done is for the people who organize this, the Muslim Society who does this, to engage them further, to say, okay, maybe we can bring you a step higher. And so once they get engaged, now bring them to one of the events that motivate them. For example, Sheikh Ahmad Sadstock. He comes down, all these overseas scholars, they come in, they give a different perspective, more appealing to the younger generation, more appealing to those who are not so inclined yet. It sparks in them something, and they get closer to the deen. But then after there needs to be a link then, for example, from there to the mosque, or into Alam programs, or into, for example, the diploma programs in Zubri, in the various service providers. And so I was thinking hopefully there can be a link. If not, you can just have a graffiti event like what Sir Hanan said, then that's it, nothing happens to it. You can have Simply Islam lecture, and then after that, that's it. They just come off with a one-off event, they feel good after that, and then that's about it. So I think, yeah, it's something that we need.
Okay, because we have about slightly less than 10 minutes, about 5 minutes or so. If we could quickly, can all of you, how many more comments or 1, 2, 4? Okay, can we leave the, can you just summarize whatever you have to say in like 1 minute each? Because I need to summarize, some of the points here. Yeah, please, brother.
Yeah, my name is
Sorry, he hasn't asked.
So yeah, I'm coming from the perspective of someone who wasn't really interested in religion when I was in secondary school. Then I turned back to Islam after the beginning of university. Just to let you know my story so that you can understand my psyche. I was in RI, I was doing very well in secondary school, and I thought Islam didn't have a role to play in my life because I was doing very well and I wasn't really following the precepts of the religion very closely. So I thought, everything it was my way of thinking which is leading me to success. And that's why I felt that Islam had no place in my life. And I even thought at that time that if I turn back to the religion, I would become like a church mouse who won't be successful in this world. And I did very well in O-levels and I went to RJC. And then yeah, I was continuing to do well, having the same mindset. And then an illness struck me at the start of the university. And then I thought it's time to go back to God, you see. And yeah, because really,
when you're on the verge of failing.
yeah, I also failed a few modules because I was getting more arrogant, and I failed a few modules, and I thought I could do anything. I was so powerful. I could take on as many activities as I liked. And then I failed a few modules, and I came down with an illness. And then I thought, hey, I really need to go back to God. And what propelled me to go back to God was also the need to find success. And then I thought, the Prophet Muhammad, he was extremely successful, and he's been promising a lot of things. These things that he's promising, this success in both worlds, it can't be that he's faking it, right? It can't be not working in this time and age because Islam is a religion for all times, right? So I decided to try going back to Islam.
Okay, but let's summarize.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
What's the point you're
Okay, the point is, I think that when I was going back to Islam, I found it very, in the first few years going back to Islam, I found it very, very hard to stick to the religion. But I think that...
so what is it that made you stick?
What really made me stick to the path is the search for knowledge.
Okay.
And I felt that, okay, sorry, I'm going all over the place, but I felt that the Islamic, for me at that point in time, I felt that Islam in the educational system in Islam, in Singapore, is focused too much on fiqh. I don't think it's important, and you have to know fiqh to be able to practice the religion well and properly. But I felt that
there are other aspects that should be addressed.
yeah, the inner dimension is not addressed. As an ignorant Muslim, I thought that when I was ignorant, I thought Islam was just a set of laws that we should follow outwardly, but I wasn't aware of the inward aspects. So I felt that the religious system is not portraying to the non-religious people the inner aspects of Islam, the beauty of Islam.
Right.
And
I think we got your point essentially that the inner dimension of spirituality must be. So my apologies, but we're really running short of time. So brother Rizwan, you want to add?
2 points to make. One is in reply to your comment, are we ready for graffiti, and about comments about graffiti and skateboard. And I would say that to make it ready, it's the fact that you've identified these areas. We need to come up with some guidelines on how one could actually go about expressing this. Certain types of graffiti, like this lady who got caught for graffiti on the road, is obviously out of bounds. In the Hindu faith, for example, there are practices on how you can actually depict the deities and how you cannot depict the deities. So there are at least rules and regulations on that would actually guide. Looking at my experiences in New Zealand, 3 times I've been in New Zealand. The first time in 1988, the issues in New Zealand were completely different. It was about Salafism and non-Salafism. And I was all the time caught with questions on whether women are permissible to come to the mosque and so on, all these kind of issues. But over the years, the last trip was last year, it was a complete change in environment. Young people are organizing Mustafa Davis' film show in the theater. They're having discussions about Africa, and they're talking about environment, how Muslims can participate in environment. So we cannot regulate these things. These things may come, but at least we need to prepare ourselves. How do we respond and help, or actually guide them should these trends like graffiti come about? The second point I want to make is that the issue of secularism. I think there's a definition of secularism in Singapore, which to me, over the years traveling around, I find that it's a little bit too rigid is the right word. Yes, yes. I can understand that secularism ought to be interpreted that the government should not favor any particular one religion. But the government recognizes that religion exists in Singapore. And now I'm looking at situations in many, many countries which, like Australia, which says is much more closer to Christianity, or say Thailand, which is a very much more Buddhist country. And if you go to Thailand, the rules are a lot more flexible than that. You walk into some of the major shopping centers, you see place of salah closely, openly put on the signboards, and there are nice prayer rooms there, which you can never see in Singapore. You see that in the airport in Bangkok, where nice prayer rooms for you to openly pray, but you cannot see that in Changi Airport, and many more things. But for short, I'll just cut.
Okay, because we didn't have as many ladies, so quick.
It's just a suggestion, I just thought of this. Because we're talking about the shortage of Asatiza, right? And then I was listening to the brother's story, and it's very interesting. Is it possible to, we should regulate it, but to train mentors, like intermediaries, like community leaders, people who are actually like linked to, usually when we think of this, we're talking about reformed drug addicts and all that, but we can also reach out to brothers who like, come from totally this, sorry. How should we go in that direction as well? Is it possible to have a mentoring program individually? Yeah.
Okay, let me just quickly, summarize this. I think the policy dimension of this, like I mentioned earlier, we will definitely take all these things into consideration. Some of you guys, the Prime Minister is going to be here later. If there are some very important things you want to bring up, please do. But we will take into consideration, we will take into account all these views that you guys have expressed, and when we engage the government at various levels, we will definitely put this forward. Now, the sense I get from the different perspectives and so on, what Mr. Hanan mentioned actually is not something, 2 points. One is that when we talk about individual outreach, what we have in mind is not just, for example, graffiti art. It's not just one graffiti art thing. If they're going to attend that, they have to do something else. It's going to be combined with, a program and so on. But nevertheless, I get a sense, please correct me if I'm wrong, that generally we all agree that we need this individual outreach. How it's going to be done, the rules and so on that we need in place, these are things that we can fine-tune, we can discuss further, and we can gather together more views for. Do I get that sense right? Yes. Okay, now with regards to the texture of Islamic education, this actually falls within our suggestion about research. What we have in mind, like the idea of getting service providers, we did that. We didn't get all. We got some service providers, we interacted with them, we talked about the various issues. So what we want to do is essentially get this kind of views. For example, brothers talk about not enough spirituality in Islamic education. Some others talk about, Brother Rizwan talk about contemporary issues at a more intellectual level. We need to, put this in paper. We need to quantify this in a more structured way, and then we can engage, because we need facts, we need numbers, we need stats to be able to support whatever proposals that we might have. And let me repeat once again, Islam is a very important dimension of our lives, and in AMP I think we believe in that. But as many of you guys already are probably aware of, Brother Rizwan made a very good point earlier about the fact that we are facilitating. So I think these two, again, can I get that sense that the texture of Islamic education, or we can work on a research dimension, and we can perhaps meet the service providers and work with them and see what can be done. Do I get that sense?
I think it's good for you to note that Mohd started to 8 years to engage with the service providers. Next week is our second meeting.
Sure. So we can, yeah, I think I'm aware of that when we are discussing you. So we have to think about how we can fit into the larger, that larger sort of discussion later. All right. I would like to thank all of you. Thank you very much for a very, very I would say robust discussion, and thank you very much for all your views. I really appreciate that, and I think we will definitely, this will be useful in terms of our